Welcome to the Xiaomi Redmi Turbo 3 camera review. This here is the 4K 60 FPS video shot with the back camera, guys, and it's also a very good start for testing the sound quality, as the noise created here by this very short and small waterfall is just a lot. So 4K 60 FPS on the back camera. You're also able to shoot Dolby Vision Pro 1080p 60 FPS on the front camera, guys, and of course there is also an ultra wide that is not so good. You're gonna see this later in this video. So how good is the Xiaomi Redmi Turbo 3 camera, guys? You have a main camera 50 megapixel powered by the Sony LAT600. You do have also an ultra wide camera 8 megapixel, which is actually a bad camera. You're gonna see later in the video, and a front camera with 20 megapixel. This is it, guys. No optical zoom, nothing fancy here, but a very good main camera, which I believe it is, and let's hope that this video will prove it. So if you like videos like this, don't hesitate to support the channel, guys. Let's start with the main review of the camera. Starting with the front camera, as I told you in the beginning, it's a 1080p 60 FPS camera, guys. I remember the times where 60 FPS on the front camera were just not there for Xiaomi phones and for Redmi phones, and nobody could believe why. Now, hopefully these times are past us, and now Xiaomi finally includes 60 FPS stock everywhere. Something that I can already tell you, guys, there is this issue with HDR handling on the front camera, which we can observe in many of the Xiaomi phones, even on the very latest, like top flagship models, Xiaomi 14 Ultra for example. But overall, I hope that the front video will do justice to the Xiaomi cameras. HDR handling seems to be very bad from what I see in the viewfinder. Now let's start running to the stabilization. Front camera, guys, electronic image stabilization. Alright, now I'm inside a darker area. I'm gonna give you a spin here with a lot of backlight behind myself to see if the camera will overexpose, which I believe it will actually. Alright, but nevertheless, guys, 60 FPS, 1080p. This now is the attempt at low light. So not only low light, guys, but I'm also shooting inside. So it's indoors. A lot of times when I'm doing these reviews, a lot of people are asking, hey, why no indoor video? Well, this time for the Redmi Turbo 3, there's gonna be indoor video from what I consider to be a dark environment. Okay. So this is the front camera, you know how it goes, 1080p 60. I'm gonna start a run. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Dynamic range seems to not be the greatest here. That's a problem with almost every Xiaomi phone I've used, even the high-end one like the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. Somehow they're not able to get the HDR done right. 4K 60 FPS. Alright, I'm giving you this 360 spin, guys, and now a very challenging scenario. Alright, I'm directly shooting at the sun, showing you that nice footage. The video seems to be okay, no major jitters and no stutters. At least this is what I'm able to see from the viewfinder. And guys, let's test the autofocus. Alright, seems to be actually quite nice and fast. So the camera is able to refocus quite nice and fast and accurate, which I believe is due to the fact that it has a PDF on the back. So focusing is okay with that camera. Now what about dynamic range? And what about stabilization? So let me start to run. Optical image stabilization is combined with electronic image stabilization to give you hopefully a better stable output. Now I'm in the open area. Take a look at that nice colors. Alright, one more time shooting against the sun. You know this is not an ideal scenario. We are looking to catch any bugs. Something that will help us to identify, is this phone doing okay with 4K 60 FPS video? Like I told you, the phone has three cameras, one ultra wide that is honestly a bad one, you're gonna see later one, and then a front one which is actually acceptable, 20 megapixel, and the main camera. And that's it, guys. So if the main camera is not good, then I will rate the whole camera experience with the Redmi as a bad one. But I believe that the back camera on this phone is actually quite capable. It's powered by the Sony LAT600, which is also available as the ultra-wide camera in the Oppo Find X7 Ultra, and also in many other phones that are almost flagship phones. Now let me go inside this dark area to see how the phone is gonna handle this transition. I'm looking here for the borderline scenarios where I'm able to identify any issues whatsoever. So now I'm going to quickly go outside in the illuminated area. All right, not that bad at all. Now let's try to test this autofocus one more time. Very fast. The main camera can go up to 6x, which is also of course a crop from it, and it's also very digital, very noisy, as you can see. So my advice is, if you want to use a crop, you're safe. I think up to 2x, probably even more. Like this is 2x. 2x is still acceptable, I do believe, if you just crop from the main camera. Maybe if you're very desperate, you can go up to 3x, but I think with 3x it's already a lot of noise introduced, and then I think from 3 to 6 it's just not so usable. So if you want to use the crop, or let's say the zoom, digital zoom on the main camera, then just my advice is go from 1 to 2x. You're gonna be safe. So this is 2x, guys, and if you go to 1x, you probably get the best footage. So the best thing to do is just shoot everything on 1x, and later, in case you need to crop, you can always do this in post-processing. This is the ultra-wide camera, 1080p, only 30 FPS. If I'm walking slowly, guys, you'll think it's okay, but the moment I start to show you 360, yeah, you can see this. It's almost like a slideshow. It's very teary, very choppy. There is a lot of jitter in this video. It's awful, really. So unless you don't have any other chains and you need to use the ultra wide, then please feel free to skip it, because the footage with the ultra wide is not good at all. Apparently the detail is there even with the 8 megapixel, but the processing and all this choppiness is just too much. All right. Also, guys, from the ultra wide you can go up to 1x and even 2x, which is going to be only a crop from the ultra wide, and it's just simply not good. 4K 60 at the back. Okay, see that sign? Let me run to test the stabilization. Actually not bad at all, by the way. I was really running at a regular speed of running. All right, let's run towards that car. Why am I doing this running test to test the stabilization? Only because the camera has an optical image stabilization, and on top also it's stabilizing with the aid of an EIS, which is the electronic image stabilization, but the output is actually quite stable. And this is important specifically for video and when you're shooting photos at low light. You know why? Because when the light is lower, you require more time to capture, not you of course, but the phone. So you're gonna use different shutter speed settings, or the phone will use different settings for the shutter speed, different ISO, everything's different, and it will take some more time to expose correctly. 4K 60 on the back, guys. Now pay attention to the tiles. I'm gonna run stabilization test. Alright, so far I think we have determined that it's pretty stable. Okay. Now, guys, you let me know about everything else. Do you like the footage? Do you think it's grainy? Do you think it's noisy? Do you think it's missing detail? What about the autofocus? Alright. Quite remarkable for a camera like this, guys. Take another reading here. See? I can only go and do up to 6x, which is a crop from the main camera. And this is how it looks like. And of course this is a limitation, right? Like myself, I always go and do 5x and 10x. A lot of zooming in my videos. So this is not something that I can work with for a longer run. But for, let's say, a backup phone, yeah, why not? Quite impressive, actually. This is the ultra wide. I think it's supposed to be the weakest camera inside the phone. It's only 8 megapixel. It has a Sony sensor. Should not be that great. Oh, and by the way, it can only do 1080p, 30 FPS. Oh, and we have this horrible tearing. You can just see, oh, every time I'm moving around. And this here is a balloon, by the way. So the ultra wide can only do 2x. Yeah, so the ultra wide is rather bad, guys. Maybe just the color rendition, I guess, is okay, but with that awful tearing. Nah, not great at all. Okay, enough with the ultra wide.
Now it's time to check the photos, and I'm gonna be starting with some nice portrait shots. In this video, I will also show you the Gcam version of the same photo. I've used AGC stock out of the box, no configs, so in case you see the pictures, the left one is going to be from the stock camera, and you can also notice this later by the watermark, and the picture on the right is going to be shot by the AGC or by Google Cam. Now, why am I doing this? Well, because we need to understand first how good the stock photos are, and then second, what this sensor can do, because the Sony LIT600 is actually quite powerful. And as we can already see here, the processing that we have with the Google camera is more natural, is better. When we take a look at the face from the left picture, we can see that it looks unnatural, kind of like plastic. And the picture on the right has a better exposure, overall feels more natural and is more appealing to the eye. This can be observed also in this photo sample. Pay attention to the skin tone. I do believe that the skin tone representation from the photo on the right is just better. Not that the one on the left is just so worse, but it's not so natural. Now let's check some portraits in low light mode. And again, I was really very well surprised, even by the stock camera here. A very challenging scenario. We have a backlight situation here, but you can see that the face is very well exposed. In this particular photo, the object moved a bit, resulting into a blurry picture. Now let's check some selfies. First time I did the selfies with the Redmi Turbo 3, I was pleasantly surprised. The cutouts were quite okay, and by the way, the skin tone was handled better compared to skin tone handling with the back camera. All you see here is just from the stock camera. This here is a selfie taken with the Google camera, and I do believe it's quite nice as well. Another sample from the back camera. Overall, a very nice and very balanced shot. I do, though, prefer the photo on the right from the Google camera. It just appears to be more dramatic with more intensity on both the highlights and also the shadows. So the overall exposure is just much more stronger for me on the right. In this example photo, the processing from the stock camera came very close to the photo on the right from Google camera. The same can be observed here. The next photo is just to illustrate that both the stock camera as well as Google camera are able to handle moving objects without motion blur. Just looks perfect. Another shot from the back camera taken with AGC just to show the color rendition, and this is really very realistic the way I also saw it with my own eyes. Again, we have an almost similar output in the processing of both photos, though the picture from Google camera tends to be a bit more dramatic with some more emphasis on the shadows in this case. Now remember, I don't have any config, so it's just really stock out of the box, but I'm happy with the results from both cameras in this case. Another direct comparison from the back camera, and as you can see here, the test object appears to be more pale compared from the picture on the right, which is the one that I prefer in this case. This here is an attempt to do a macro photo. Later on, you're going to see some more examples. So you don't have a lot of options to go very close with this camera, but I do believe that the results are quite acceptable. The processing in both photos is nice. All right, let's go back to the stock camera. This here is 1x, and in the next few examples, you're gonna see some zoom shots. Remember, there is no dedicated zoom camera. Everything is cropped from the main sensor. The 2x crop from the main sensor is still acceptable. This here is 4x, and the detail starts to get muddy. There is also a lot of noise. This here is 6x. Again, it's a crop from the main sensor, and I do believe that this is like the maximum that I can take. 8x is already very blurry, and the last sample is 10x. So again, 10x is not so usable at all. So with this phone, my advice is to use 2x and 3x maximum, and don't really go more than 3x. Some more attempts at the macro photography. Now pay attention at the natural depth of field. I really love it with this main camera. So now memorize this shot. I really try to get as close as I can get, and in fact this is the result. Like, this was the closest that I was able to reach without compromising the focus. Another great shot with a very nice color rendition, and another attempt from my side to just get as close as I can. Same scenario here, some very beautiful flowers and some very beautiful colors. And again, trying to get as close as I can. Sometimes the bokeh or depth of field really manages to surprise me. Just a random shot, a birdhouse here, nicely exposed, focus, everything in place. And this is where things get interesting because this phone can do Ultra HD or 50 megapixels. So this picture that you're looking right now is 12 megapixel one, and we can see that the HDR processing is actually quite acceptable. This is the same version, but it's shot in 50 megapixel. Usually the phone will produce a 15 to 16, 17 megabytes of a photo, and when we start zooming in, for sure there will be more details compared to the ordinary output. Same scenario here, this is the standard, I believe 12 megapixel picture, and this here is the 50 megapixel version. Now let's go inside and review some indoor footage and also low light footage. I really like this picture. The color rendition is so nice and you can see all the wrinkles, so the detail, the level of detail is also very much acceptable. Another short indoors with not so much light reveals also some very captivating and nice processing. And another photo from indoors that I really like, the exposure and the detail. So overall, I was really impressed with this camera. And some more indoor photos, some with the zoom here, another one, and with the zoom here. Last but not least, some night photos. In this scenario here, I also brought Google Camera just for comparison. Overall, the stock processing isn't bad at all, and you can also check this in the next sample. All right. And one more, guys, indoors, to just show you that if you want to get nice, I would say decent and probably even above decent photos from the main camera, well, you can achieve this.
So this has been my review of the Redmi Turbo 3 camera. You have three cameras, guys, and in fact there is something that is very good and some other things that are not so good. So the good thing here is that you have at least one camera that is good. And the good thing is that it's actually the main camera. So if you will only rely on one camera, that's the main camera, you don't require 3x, 5x, 10x zoom, optical zoom whatsoever, then it's safe for you to choose this phone. But if you want to use the ultra wide, if you want to do macro photos, well, you need to skip that one. Or you want to, let's say, switch lenses and shoot 3x, 5x, shoot within the optical range from 1x to 10x. Yeah, then most probably the Redmi Turbo 3 is not your phone. But if you're happy with having footage 1x to 3x stop from the main sensor, I think you're safe with the video and also with the photos, guys. The photos taken with the main camera are actually quite nice, as you can see. Everything else, guys, is of course a hard pass, but the corners to be cut are like this to be able to get a phone for under 400 euro. So if you like videos like this, then you might want to support the channel because more content is coming. Thank you so much for watching. VST over and bye.